Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. Let me tell you something I've learned about men, and I've learned it the hard way, through mistakes, through growth, and through listening. When a man starts to feel something real, something deeper than surface level attraction, it can scare him. Not because he doesn't want you, but because he wants you more than he expected to. And that kind of feeling has weight. That kind of feeling demands responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey, let me slow this thing down and really explain something that most people misunderstand. When a man creates distance, the first assumption is always the same. He doesn't care anymore. That's the easy conclusion. That's the emotional conclusion. But more often than not, that distance has nothing to do with a lack of interest and everything to do with internal conflict. And if you don't understand that conflict, you'll misread his silence and sabotage what could have grown. A man doesn't pull away when he feels nothing. When a man is uninterested, he doesn't think twice. He fades, he disappears, he replaces. No tension, no confusion, no struggle. But when he actually wants you, when he starts to feel something that reaches deeper than attraction, his mind goes to work against his heart. That's where the conflict begins. His emotions say, I like her. His logic says, be careful. And that battle creates distance. Men are problem solvers by nature. When something feels unfamiliar, overwhelming, or risky, they don't talk it out the way women do. They retreat inward to figure it out alone. So when his feelings grow stronger than he expected, his instinct isn't to lean in and talk, it's to step back and analyze. He starts asking himself questions he didn't plan on answering. Can I handle this emotionally? Am I ready for what she deserves? What happens if this gets serious and I fail? That pause, that space, that emotional step back, that's not absence. That's processing. You see, when a man realizes he's emotionally invested, he becomes aware of consequences. And consequences mean responsibility. Responsibility means accountability, and accountability forces a man to look at himself honestly. Distance is often the moment where he's facing his own limitations, not questioning your value. A lot of women think, if he wanted me, he wouldn't pull away. But the truth is, if he didn't want you, there would be no reason to pull away. He would stay exactly the same. Distance only shows up when emotions shift. When the stakes rise, behavior changes. Here's something else most people don't talk about. Men are afraid of failing at what they care about. When a man truly wants a woman, he doesn't want to mishandle her. He doesn't want to disappoint her. He doesn't want to promise more than he can deliver. So instead of rushing forward and messing it up, he slows himself down. He creates distance to protect both of you from a decision made too quickly. That distance is not always about fear of love. It's fear of loss. Because when you don't care, you don't fear losing. But when you do care, losing feels expensive. And men know that once their heart is involved, walking away won't be easy. Now listen closely. Internal conflict doesn't look calm. It looks inconsistent. One day he's close, the next day he's quiet. One moment he's warm, the next he's distant. That's not a game. That's confusion. He's not trying to control you. He's trying to control himself. And this is where many people make the mistake of personalizing the distance. They assume it means they're not enough. So they start overgiving, over-explaining, overextending, trying to remove his doubts by sacrificing their own boundaries. But his conflict isn't about your worth. It's about his readiness. When you understand that, you stop chasing clarity from someone who's still finding it within himself. You stop reacting emotionally and start observing calmly. And that calm is powerful, because when a man steps back and sees that you didn't fall apart, didn't beg, didn't panic, he realizes something important. You are emotionally secure. And emotional security is rare. Distance reveals two things at the same time. It reveals whether he's capable of growth, and it reveals whether you know your value. When you don't chase him during his internal conflict, you give him space to miss you. But more importantly, you give him space to respect you. Men don't respect what they feel forced into. They respect what they choose, and distance creates choice. If he comes back clearer, more intentional, more grounded, that means the distance did its job. It allowed him to confront his feelings instead of running from them. And if he doesn't come back, then the distance saved you from someone who wasn't emotionally equipped to handle what he felt. Either way, you didn't lose. Because understanding that distance often means internal conflict, not rejection, keeps you from abandoning yourself while someone else is figuring themselves out. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. Let me tell you something real about men that doesn't get explained enough. When emotions start getting deeper, when feelings move from casual to serious, that's when many men pull back. Not because they don't want you, but because what they're feeling is bigger than what they prepared for. Attraction is easy, desire is simple, but emotional depth changes everything. A man can flirt all day long without fear. He can chase excitement without hesitation. But the moment his feelings start reaching his heart instead of his ego, something shifts inside him. He realizes this is no longer just about enjoying the moment. Now it's about consequences. Now it's about expectations. Now it's about the possibility of building something that could change his life. And that realization makes him slow down. Men are not taught how to process deep emotions openly. From a young age, many are conditioned to suppress feelings, to stay logical, to stay in control. So when emotions start getting stronger than logic, confusion shows up. Pulling back becomes a way to regain balance. He steps away not to escape you, but to understand himself. When a man feels deeply, he becomes aware of risk. Deep emotions mean vulnerability. Vulnerability means exposure. Exposure means the possibility of rejection, disappointment, or failure. And men fear failing at what they care about far more than failing at something they don't. If he didn't care, there would be no fear. The fear only exists because the feelings matter. This is why you'll often see a pattern where everything seems to be going well. Connection is strong, communication is flowing, and then suddenly, distance, silence, less effort. That moment usually comes right after an emotional peak, a deep conversation, a meaningful experience, a realization that this is becoming real. His heart has stepped forward faster than his mind is ready to follow. Instead of moving closer and risking making promises he's unsure he can keep, he pulls back to assess. Can I handle this level of emotional responsibility? Can I be consistent? Can I meet her needs without losing myself? These are not questions he asks out loud. These are questions he wrestles with alone. Distance becomes a protective pause. A man steps back when he feels the weight of emotional expectations forming. Not because you placed them there, but because he knows real connection always comes with responsibility. And responsibility requires readiness. Here's the mistake many people make. Assume emotional depth should automatically bring closeness. They think love should move forward smoothly, without hesitation. But for many men, emotional depth triggers reflection before action. He needs to understand what he's stepping into before he commits to it emotionally. This pullback isn't about you doing something wrong. It's about the intensity of what he's feeling. Strong emotions disrupt routine. They challenge comfort. They force growth. And growth is uncomfortable. When a man pulls back at the moment, emotions deepen. He's often trying to avoid hurting you. He doesn't want to lead you on while he's uncertain. He doesn't want to promise more than he can give. So instead of continuing forward blindly, he pauses. He creates space to decide whether he can show up the way real feelings demand. What makes this difficult is that emotional depth looks different for men than it does for women. Many women lean in when they feel more. Many men lean back to think. Neither response is wrong. It's just different. Problems only arise when that difference is misunderstood. When you panic during his pullback, when you chase reassurance or demand clarity before he has it, it adds pressure. Pressure doesn't create closeness. It creates resistance. But when you remain calm, grounded, and confident, you allow his emotions to settle instead of intensify. And here's where something powerful happens. When a man pulls back and doesn't see desperation, fear, or emotional collapse, he realizes you are emotional secure. Emotional security is attractive. It signals maturity. It tells him you're not trying to force a bond. You're allowing it to form naturally. Men don't want to feel trapped by emotions. They want to choose them freely. Distance gives him that sense of choice. And when the choice is made without pressure, it's stronger and more genuine. If his emotions are real, distance will not make him forget you. It will make him think about you more clearly. It will make him miss your presence. It will help him understand whether what he feels is temporary excitement or something worth committing to. If he comes back more intentional, more present, more honest, it's because the depth of his emotions pushed him to grow. And if he doesn't, then his pullback wasn't about readiness. It was about limitation. Either way, understanding that men often pull back when emotions deepen keeps you from internalizing his distance as rejection. It allows you to stay rooted in your worth while he figures out whether he's capable of handling what his heart is asking for. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. Now let's talk about something that confuses a lot of women when it comes to men. Men pull back. They create distance. And many women automatically assume it means they're not wanted. But here's the truth. Sometimes distance is exactly the opposite. It means he wants you more. That pullback isn't absence. It's a signal. It's a reaction to his own emotions and to the depth of connection he's starting to feel. Understanding this can change how you respond and ultimately how he responds to you. You see, men are wired differently than women when it comes to handling emotions. Women are taught to process feelings by talking, expressing, and seeking connection. Men, on the other hand, often process feelings by withdrawing. When he starts to feel something real, something serious, his instinct is to step back and think, not because he doesn't want you, but because he wants to make sure he can handle it. He's asking himself, am I ready for this? Can I meet her needs? Can I show up the way she deserves? That space he creates is him working through that internal conflict. It's important to understand the difference between avoidance and processing. Voidness is when a man pulls back because he doesn't care, because he's indifferent, because he's playing games. Processing is when he pulls back because the feelings he has for you are strong, real, and complicated. And the reason it gets complicated is simple. Real connection brings responsibility. Real connection brings accountability. Real connection brings consequences. A man who feels deeply can't always act freely like he does when emotions are light. Think about it this way. Attraction and desire are easy. You can like someone, chase them, flirt with them, have fun with them, and feel no pressure. But emotional investment changes everything. When a man starts imagining the future, when he starts weighing possibilities, when he starts picturing the impact of his actions, he starts to slow down. That's where distance shows up. That's where you see the pause, the silence, the inconsistency in effort. It's not about you being less, it's about him being more aware of what he's feeling. Many women make the mistake of interpreting distance as rejection. They panic, they overcompensate, they chase after him. And when they do, something shifts, but not in the way they want. Chasing a man while he's processing his emotions often creates relief for him. Relief that the pressure is gone. Relief that the attention is still there without the need for commitment. But if you remain grounded, calm, and confident, something entirely different happens. He begins to feel the absence of your energy. He begins to respect you more. Distance can become a mirror that reflects a man's true feelings. When he steps back, he's observing not just you, but himself in relation to you. He's asking questions like, can I be the kind of man she deserves? Can I rise to the level of what she brings to the table? And while he's asking those questions, he's also feeling your value. He's realizing that you're not just anyone. You're someone worth thinking about, worth protecting, worth wanting. That distance becomes an invisible pull, drawing him inward to his own clarity while making him recognize your worth. The problem is, most women don't understand this dynamic. They assume that closeness is proof of love and distance is proof of disinterest. But the truth is, when a man pulls back in the middle of a deepening connection, he's not rejecting you, he's evaluating himself. He's trying to ensure that when he does move forward, he can do it in a way that honors you. That's powerful. That's maturity. And it's rare. This is why it's so important to maintain your own confidence and self-worth during his distance. Do not chase. Do not over-explain. Do not beg for attention or reassurance. Your value does not increase because of pursuit. It's revealed through presence, self-respect, and emotional stability. When a man sees that you are whole, on your own, that you are not dependent on his attention for your happiness, he begins to feel the weight of what he could lose. That weight often turns into attraction stronger than before. Distance also allows a man to clarify his intentions. When he's overwhelmed by his feelings, he may fear saying the wrong thing, promising the wrong thing, or making a commitment he isn't ready for. That fear can cause withdrawal. But withdrawal in this context is him taking emotional inventory. He's weighing the risk versus the reward. He's evaluating how serious he is about you. And while he's doing that, he's thinking about you more than you realize. Here's the critical piece. If his distance comes with consistency and respect, it's a sign of emotional processing. If it comes with excuses, dishonesty, or avoidance, it's a sign of limitation. Your job, to observe, not to panic. Your job is to remain confident, grounded, and focused on your own life while allowing him the space to resolve his own feelings. When he comes back after processing, he doesn't just come back casually. He comes back intentional. He comes back ready to show up, ready to commit, ready to meet you where you've been waiting. And that's the difference. That's why distance, when understood, can actually increase attraction, desire, and respect. It is not a rejection. It is an invitation for him to align his emotions with his actions. Remember this. A man who wants you more will pull back at times, not to push you away, but to understand himself, his feelings, and his readiness. Distance is not a lack of interest. It's an opportunity for him to process, for him to grow, and for him to eventually return in a way that reflects true intention and desire. And if you handle it with confidence, self-respect, and patience, the pullback becomes a magnet that draws him closer, deeper, and with a clarity that will last far longer than constant attention ever could. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. Let's talk about something that every woman needs to understand if she wants a man who truly values her. When a man pulls back, when he creates distance, it can feel like a test, like rejection, or like he's losing interest. But the truth is far more powerful than that. Distance, when it comes from a man who cares, is one of the strongest signs that he wants you more. It's a signal, not a punishment. It's a reflection of his feelings, his mind, and his respect for you. Understanding this can change everything about how you respond, how he reacts, and ultimately how your relationship evolves. You see, confidence is magnetic, and the woman who does not crumble at a man's distance is the woman who becomes irresistible. Men are drawn to women who maintain that air composure, their independence, and their self-worth, even when he's acting distant. That's because men respect strength. They respect stability. They respect someone who doesn't need to chase validation. When he notices that you are not panicking, that you are not begging, that your happiness is not contingent upon his attention, he begins to see your value on a level he cannot ignore. Your distance, in a way, mirrors his own. It challenges him to rise to the occasion, to step into a space where he can be the man capable of matching your worth. Think about it like this. Distance creates curiosity. When a man pulls away and sees that you are not desperate for his attention, he begins to wonder. He begins to reflect. Why isn't she falling apart? Why isn't she chasing? Why isn't she overreacting? That curiosity is powerful because it sparks respect and intrigue. It forces him to engage mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually in a way that constant presence often cannot. When he sees that you are whole and confident on your own, it's like a mirror showing him what he could lose. And no man wants to lose something he values without effort, without reflection, and without realizing its importance. Distance also gives him room to truly appreciate you. When a man is always in contact, always receiving attention, it can be easy for him to take it for granted. Familiarity without space can dull desire. But when distance exists, he starts to notice the little things. He remembers your laughter, your energy, your smile, and the way you make him feel without even trying. Absence in this context does not diminish attraction. It enhances it. It allows him to see you not as a constant presence to take for granted, but as a rare, valuable presence that enriches his life. And here's something critical. Distance tests him. It tests his intentions, his patience, and his commitment. A man who wants you for the right reasons will not disappear forever. He will not play games endlessly. He will not treat your presence as optional, but he will pull back strategically, unconsciously, or consciously to ensure he can show up in a way that respects both his own space and your worth. If he comes back with intention, consistency, and focus, it's a signal that the distance worked. It allowed him to confront his own feelings, reflect on his desire, and prepare himself to show up as the kind of man who is capable of valuing you properly. It's also important to recognize that this distance is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his capacity. Many women take it personally, thinking he must not care or I'm not enough. But the truth is, distance is often about his emotional bandwidth, his ability to handle vulnerability, and his readiness to step fully into a connection. A man who truly wants you more will pull back to process all of this internally. He doesn't want to hurt you. He doesn't want to act recklessly. He doesn't want to say or do the wrong thing and risk losing something precious. That is why patience, self-respect, and confidence are your most powerful tools in this situation. When you respond to distance with calmness and self-assuredness, you create an environment where he can reflect, grow, and align his actions with his emotion. You remove the pressure that often pushes a man away and instead create a space that encourages him to step forward authentically. And here's the magic. The more secure you are in yourself, the more he realizes your rarity. Men are drawn to women who are not dependent on their attention, who do not seek constant validation, and who value themselves independently. That kind of presence makes him not only want you, but want to rise to the standard that you represent. Distance can also deepen his emotional connection to you. When he steps back, he starts noticing the impact you have on his life. He starts remembering your qualities, your conversations, your laughter, your energy, and how you make him feel seen and appreciated. That realization can stir desire, respect, and longing in a way that constant attention cannot. Absence forces reflection. It forces him to understand his feelings more clearly and intentionally. And when he returns after that reflection, it's not just about proximity, it's about presence, purpose, and commitment. Finally, understand this. Your response to distance will determine the outcome. If you react with desperation, with insecurity, or with chasing, you diminish your power and make it easy for him to overlook your value. But if you respond with confidence, with self-respect, and with independence, you increase your magnetic energy. You show him that you are a woman who knows her worth and will not settle for anything less than the attention, respect, and intention you deserve. And when a man sees that, distance stops being a tool of uncertainty and becomes a tool of attraction. It makes him want you more, not less, because he understands that what you offer is rare and precious, and it requires effort, respect, and emotional clarity to earn. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman who remains grounded in her value, confident in her worth, and composed in the face of his distance is the woman a man cannot resist. Distance, when handled correctly, is not a barrier. It is a magnet that draws him back, stronger, more intentional, and more committed than ever. It's proof that his feelings for you are real, deep, and worth navigating. And that, my friends, is how his distance becomes one of the greatest signs that he wants you more.